The inside arms and the inside back are done on my chair. We just need a seat to sit on. I'm doing the same upholstery build-up as I did on the inside back, starting with my webbing. However, instead of jute webbing, I'm going to be going in with the black and white herringbone webbing, which is a lot stronger, followed by springs. Now, these are seat springs, and they are a lot bigger than the inside back springs.
I'm starting by fixing down the webbing from front to back. The springs need a solid point of contact, so I'm spacing the webbing strips about an inch apart.
That's my front to back webbings done. Now I've got to do side to side.
The side-to-side webbing strips are interwoven through the front-to-back ones. This crisscross pattern creates a strong platform, spreads the weight evenly and keeps the springs from shifting, turning the base into a stable, long-lasting grid.
Webbings have been stretched and tacked down to the underside of my chair frame, and my webbings should sound a little bit like a drum if I tap on them. These are the original springs that I took out of the chair during the stripping process. They are going back in. I'm going to position them where I want them on the webbings and draw around them with a permanent marker.
There are 9 seat springs in total, so I'm spacing them out evenly. This is also why we upholster the inside back first. The lumbar support determines where the back springs need to sit. Once I'm happy with the layout, I draw around each spring to use as a reference point when I stitch and tie them down to the webbing platform.
I'm using a mattress needle and I'm going to be hand stitching each spring to the webbing base.
Each spring is hand tied directly onto the webbing platform, and every single one needs 4 knots to hold it securely in place. The tricky part is that all of these knots are worked on the underside of the webbing, so it's a lot of reaching underneath and making sure each tie is tight enough to keep the springs from shifting.
Each spring is now tied down to the webbings below, and you can see the little stitches. There's 4 on each spring with knots underneath to hold them in place. I've also gone around the perimeter and added in 2 tacks in front of each row of springs on the front, back and on the sides.
Just like on the inside back, I'm starting with 2 tacks either end of the spring row. These anchor points hold the spring lashings securely in place. For the lashing itself, I'm using a thick flax cord which is strong and durable enough to cope with years of pressure. Working from back to front across the seat, I tie the cord onto each spring using a series of knots called half hitches. Each half hitch loops around the spring coil, keeping every spring centered and preventing them from leaning or drifting out of place. Once the lashings are tied in place front to back and side to side, I then add more lashings, not just across the seat but diagonally too, creating what's known as an 8-way tie system. This method locks every spring in position so they all work together. It does take a lot of time, and trust me, it's a lot of knots to make.
Now I'm going to do the ultimate upholsterer's spring tying test and finally sit in my chair. Bring me a cup of tea, cup of coffee. Okay, what's next?